Hello, everyone. This is Liz, one of Derry Public Library's resident film experts, and today is Freebie Friday, meaning I am here to recommend some free movies that you can watch, meaning you don't need to have a subscription or pay any money. You might have to have a login account, but you can still watch movies for free. Um, again, not everyone can afford streaming services, and although I should mention the library is now currently circulating movies again, so if you want to put a film on hold, you can do so and pick it up with curbside pickup. So, on to the Freebie Friday picks. The first is Nancy Meyers' Something's Gotta Give with Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson. I think a lot of people probably know this movie. It was fairly popular when it came out, and it's, I think, an incredibly charming movie. It starts off with Diane Keaton's daughter is dating Jack Nicholson, and Diane Keaton's a little like, what does she see in him? He's old, and he's also, or really not he's old, but more he's my age. And he's also kind of crude and abrasive, but they both fall in love with each other. Again, it's a very nice romance featuring older people, and it does it without being very cloying. And that is on IMDb TV. Up next is one of my favorite comedies of all time. It's definitely a new classic and features, I think, two of the funniest actors ever. It is The Birdcage. I'm very happy that this is free, and this is on Vudu. If you don't know what The Birdcage is, Nathan Lane and Robin Williams play partners, I guess husband and husband. They run a drag performance bar in Florida, and they find out that their son is getting married to the daughter of an extremely conservative politician. Hijinks ensue because they have to appear to be a quote unquote normal family and, actually having a mother instead of two men who raised their son. But, as this movie shows, there's no really one way to have a normal family. And, both of these kids were raised by two different types of parents, and they both turned out to be good kids. Also, besides the aforementioned Lane Williams, you have Diane Wiest, who is great. Gene Hackman, who's really funny, playing the straight man. He doesn't get too many like big showy parts, but his deadpan is hilarious. You have Hank Azaria, who's great. Christine Baranski, who is always good. And she has a role in this that could have been just a very throwaway role, and yet you still remember her every time you watch the movie. And a pre-Ally McBeal Callista Flockhart. If you've never seen The Birdcage, do so. It's a treat. I actually think it might be better than the French film it's based off of, La Cage aux Folles. Also on Vudu is another great comedy classic, Waiting for Guffman. And this is a mockumentary from Christopher Guest. He's done a lot of movies like this. This is Spinal Tap, Mighty Wind, The Amazing Best in Show, and this does feature the dearly departed Fred Willard. He was an incredibly funny man, and he's just one of those actors that anything he does could be funny. So this is about a small town theater performance, and they get word that this supposedly famous New York critic is coming, and they're like, "Oh, this could all be our tickets to the big leagues." And it's a movie that's about small towns and the small town mentality without being very mocking. And if anything, it looks at these the dreams of these small town people of being big stars. They're endearing rather than, "Oh, aren't you stupid?" You also have Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, who, if you don't know they're some of the funniest people alive right now, I don't know what you've been watching or haven't been watching. So I will say this: if you are a Schitt's Creek fan and you have never seen Waiting for Guffman, pop it in. Yeah, Christopher Guest is great, one of the great comedy directors of our time. Also on Vudu is a personal favorite of mine. I wasn't much into teen movies when I was that age because I felt like many of them just did not speak to me. I was definitely a little weirder and sarcastic. But there was like a little slew of teen movies that had a bit more bite. So Drop Dead Gorgeous, Jawbreaker, and this one, Sugar and Spice, which is about a bunch of teenagers who rob a bank to help out one of their pregnant members. It is I mean, again, like a lot of stuff, a little bit dated in some ways, but I actually think it holds up rather well. James Marsden is hilarious. Merle Shelton's hilarious. A lot of good comedic performances from these young actresses, and I'm kind of mad that a lot of them didn't really go anywhere afterwards, at least not in the comedy sector. I mean, they did other movies. Another thing I like about this movie is, as opposed to so many other teen movies, the one who is the outcast, so to speak, is actually kind of the mean, bitter one, whereas the cheerleaders are actually really nice and treat everyone in school really well. Morelli Shelton's character is a genuinely nice person, and it is a nice subversion from a lot of teen movies that will cast cheerleaders as automatic mean girls. Um, Speaking of older movies, we're going back to the 80s with Firstborn on Crackle. So this is a movie I found out about from 80s All Over, and it intrigued me. And again, it is dated, especially for how it kind of deals divorce a little bit, but it's about an older son who is a little bit wary of his mother's new partner. And I actually think there's some good performances in this movie. It's a drama that moves fairly quickly. And I mean, when you think of 80s movies, I had never heard of this. And one of the things I like about streaming, specifically free streaming, is sometimes the less popular movies are on there, but that is for the better because that means people can discover these movies. Up next, we're going to Tubi. If you need something for the kids, the film Early Man is on there. So this is by the Aardman. I hope I'm saying we're the Aardman Studio. So they're the ones that do Wallace and Gromit. They did Chicken Run, which is fabulous if you've never seen it, and Wallace and Gromit's great, obviously. This is sort of about not quite prehistoric, but definitely like an early type of civilization. Very cute, very charming, good for kids. Some of the jokes might be a little advanced, and not as in that they're like made for adults. It's just they make historical references that if you're younger you just might not understand, but these movies are very goofy and good natured. I think everyone can enjoy them. And also a movie that I love is on Tubi. I am a big Tim Burton fan, but if you've talked to me at the library, I haven't been a huge fan of some of his more recent output. Although I'll kind of go to bat for Dumbo. That's got enough old Burton stuff in it that I liked. But, his Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Alice in Wonderland stuff, I'm just not into. And this Big Eyes, which is about a real thing that happened. I'm blanking on the artist's name, but this was a woman who did paintings of these children with big eyes, big puppy dog eyes, and her husband ended up taking the credit for it, and she ended up proving she was the artist in a court case where she actually had to draw. This was a passion project for Burton, and it actually kind of explains some of the other movies he directed, was so he could finance this. And I think this is one of his best modern features in years. It doesn't have his signature. Well, I would say it does have a signature look, but not the one that everyone considers to be a signature look. I would say if you go back to some of his earlier films, like Edward Scissorhands, that strange little, bric-a-brac suburb look that he has, where it's almost an uncanny valley with how clean and pretty everything looks. This is the look that this film has. And again, I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with him doing Disney movies if this means he can finance the movies that he absolutely wants to. I mean, there's a lot of creators who do that. They do one for the studio and one for themselves. But if you've never seen Big Eyes, it's great. It stars Amy Adams and Christoph Waltz. I absolutely love it, and I love recommending it to people. And before I go, I should say that there are three movies that are free right now. Selma, The Hate You Give, and Just Mercy, they're free on Fandango, and I believe Selma and Just Mercy are free to rent on Amazon Prime. Again, I think a lot of people are looking for films right now that kind of deal with a lot of things going on in terms of police brutality, racial justice, and racial inequality. And I think these are three good films to start. I think Selma is fantastic. This is Ava DuVernay's film. And I think one of the things it does well is it doesn't sanctify Martin Luther King. It shows him as a human being who had flaws. And not everyone always agreed with him. There were civil rights leaders at the time who disagreed with his methods. And this shows that. The Hate You Give, I think, is very good. in the first half, I think kind of falls apart towards the end. But I will say, if you've read the book and you're interested in seeing the adaptation, this is a good one to see. And I have not seen Just Mercy yet, but I am a big fan of Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx, and Brie Larson. So I will definitely be checking it out. But I do like that these studios have made these films available to watch for free for people. So hopefully you'll check one of these out. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.